Welcome to Professor Game Podcast, where we interview successful practitioners of games, gamification, and game thinking who brings the best of their experiences to get ideas, insights, and inspiration that help us in the process of getting the students to learn what we teach. And I'm Rob Alvarez. I teach and work at IE Business School in Madrid, where we create interactive and engaging learning materials. Want to know more? Go to professorgame.com/subscribe, start on our email list, and ask me anything. Engagers, today we have Pau Yanez. And the first thing, before we get started with anything else, Pau, are you prepared to engage?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. Let's go. Pau has a degree in pedagogy and master in ITC applied to education, so very, very relevant for us today. He is also, of course, an entrepreneur with more than 10 years of experience in the creation of digital business related to video games, serious games, gamification, and mobile technologies. Among others, I have to say he has, in his business, created things like City Nostra, a geolocation game set in the Sicilian Mafia, Geomotion Games, a consulting and R&D company in gamification for smart cities, and PlayVisit, which is a startup based in Barcelona, reinventing tourism and cultural heritage through location-based games and gamification. He is a big fan of strategy and resource management video games, but also real-life video games that make you go out and discover the world, and I'm guessing that's why he's done things like City Nostra. He also loves to travel and discover new cities and countries, as well as practice outdoor sports like trail running or trekking. I have to say, I think I have to check back on my episodes, but I think even though I live in Spain, I am completely based in Madrid right now. I think you are the first Spanish interviewee that we have on the podcast. So welcome, Pau.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you for taking off some time. I know entrepreneurs are extremely busy people who always are into meetings, into other things, presentations, etc. So thank you very much for taking off this time for the Engagers today.
Thank you very much, Rob, for inviting us.
So within that hectic every day of an entrepreneur that I'm sure you have, and that's part of what, because we met in Gamification Europe, we had talked about other things before through digital media, but we actually met in Gamification Europe, as far as I can remember, this year in Amsterdam. So we were talking about how crazy busy a life can get with an entrepreneur and how hectic it can get to be. What does a regular day or week with Pau look like? What does it feel like to be one of these gamification entrepreneurs?
I have to say that I have a very varied days. So depending on my schedule, it can be different one day from another. But I try to have a basic things to do, so I can try to organize my day. So I wake up really early in the morning, so around 6 a.m. Then I have something that is compulsory, so I need to go out for a walk with my dogs. I have two dogs, so this is something that I have to say every morning. And then I have my breakfast, and then the first thing I do regarding my work, it's the catch up with my team. So we have a remote team, so we need to catch up every day. We have a daily meeting in the morning. So yeah, it's about updates about the previous work from the day before. What are we going to do this day? So yeah, it's a perfect moment, to keeping in touch with the team and with the tasks that we have scheduled. And then, as I said, depending on the day, I go for meetings. I go to events, some networking, or I go to see some customers. Well, it depends on the day. I have paperwork to do also. So yeah, depending on the day, it's different. Then in the afternoon, when normally at 6 p.m. or something like this, I try to have some family time with my girlfriend. So yeah, I dedicate time to my girlfriend, also to play games. I have to say that I don't have much time to play games now. I usually play more than now, but yeah, dedicate some times to games, reading, and yeah, time for me. yeah, normally depending on the day is different, but also I go travel because we have different R&D international projects. So yeah, sometimes I need to travel. So yeah, this is a normal day for me.
It sounds very complete, not necessarily long or short, but it sounds very, very packed and complete. And one clarification for those of us who, well, I'm getting used to this because I've been in Spain for a few years, but 6 a.m. maybe in some countries sounds like early, but not extremely early. You have to imagine that in Spain, getting up at 6 is like getting up at 5. So, Pau, it's a commendable thing for you to get up every day at 6 a.m., which is the equivalent of 5 a.m. for most of the countries in the world.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, normally in Spain, people wake up a little bit later than 6, but it's okay. It's a good time
Yes.
for me. So
It's a very productive time. I also
yeah.
get up at around 6:20, 6:15 or so. But I know that the life in the city and in most cities starts later. It's because of the time zone differences and the way that it's scheduled here in Spain. So also dinner is a bit later. I mean, we have some very, very special things going on here in Spain. So again, I just wanted to make a quick comment on that for those, because some people will say, oh, I get up at 5:30. Well, this guy is getting up at the equivalent of 5 a.m. So he is winning on that one. So, Pau, there's something that we always, this is a question that we enjoy, and it's not because we like to see people fail at all. It's actually because we learn a lot from failure, from difficult situations, and we want to know of a story, of a time when you had what you could call your favorite fail or first attempt in learning. That's a time when things went south, except expecting it to go north. One of those times when things just didn't go as you expected. And of course, the main thing here is bring us through that story. And how did you either come up from it? What did you learn from such an experience? We want to be there at the ground level with you and take up all those learnings and soak them in. So take it away, Pau.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It all began after the creation of the first video game that I designed. It was called City Nostra, as you said. It was a location based game. It was around 2012. When no Pokemon Go was created, so nobody was aware of location based games and that kind of real life games. And yeah, we created City Nostra, that it's a location-based game, as you said, based in the Sicilian Mafia. So players had to go out the streets and try to conquer different territories from other players. So it was kind of a massively multi-user online game, and we were really really focused on the game itself. And one of the failures is that we focused too much on the game and not on the marketing side and not on the business side. So the game was kind of a success. People that was playing the game was having fun. Comments in the App Store were really really good, but we couldn't make enough money to make the game sustainable. Okay, so the fail was that we couldn't make the game a business, but the learning from this, we tried to apply to our following projects. So yeah, the basic learning around this is that you need to balance when creating video games or your own products on the entertainment industry. Try to balance business and game design and game development. So you will see if the game is a success only if you can live from that. I think this is one of the main learnings that we got from the first product that we we put on the market.
And I think it's a typical thing that could happen to many of us, because we get excited about the whole game mechanics, the game itself, gamification in general, and we get all excited about that, and sometimes we forget about what is the main objective that you had there. And you were building a business at that point. If you're building a business, having an exciting game is super important, so that people get excited about the game and the business goes well. But if you don't consider the other variables, maybe it's not working. And I would think of extrapolating that and going a little bit further, and also applying it as well to education, which is not just focusing on the way that the game is working and those things, which are super important, but also remembering, keeping in mind what your objective is. And that objective could be making money, that could be having more visibility, having more subscribers, that could be whatever that objective is. It could be a learning objective with the students, it could be one of many, 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 many different things. But don't forget that objective is there, and that your gameplay is supporting how you reach those objectives. Because entertainment, just for entertainment's sake, depends on what your revenue model is and what your objective is. It could work, but if you have a different objective, then you have to think about that objective and keep it always. Your North Star is right there. Never forget about it. So I think that would be a key learning for me from hearing your story, Pau.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Rob. Yeah.
So since you did that first one, we were talking in the intro that you've been on this business for around 10 years already. I'm sure you've learned many things, and you've had not only these learning experiences from failure, but you've also had a good chunk of success as well. So we would like to shift now a bit and go 180 degrees instead of for the failure story. Another story of something that you faced a challenge, one of these difficult situations, and you solved it using serious games, video games, gamification, and how did that happen? Once again, bring us to the ground level. Take us there with you, and so that we can see what were the keys to your success. How did it go, and what did you do about it to get to that level of success?
One of the things that I would like to highlight here is that in Geomotion Games, this is the consulting company that I'm running right now, we participate on R&D and research and development and innovation projects. So from the learnings that we got from City Nostra, we tried to apply them on our future projects, okay? And one of the projects that we participated, it was called Beaconing, with Professor Sylvester Arnap, that I think that was interviewed by you, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Sylvester is like episode 4 probably, or something. He was one of the first guests, indeed.
Yeah. So we tried, our goal, our mission in this project was to create a technological tool to create location-based experiences by teachers. Okay. So everything that we learn from making people move around the city, so using game mechanics, game dynamics, and gamification strategies at the end in City Nostra, we tried to apply this to this on the creation of this tool. Okay, so we solved a lot of problems using this this technology to facilitate teachers to create their own games. As you know, normally teachers are not really engaged with technology, and they, of course, don't know normally how to program. So we create a system where they didn't have to program a line of code, and they could just, dragging and drop different features in the technological tool and put these experiences for the students to, explore the city and learn while they move around the city. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we had, how to make teachers able to create game experiences and with location technologies. So it was kind of hard, but I think I don't know, to be, in my humble opinion, we did a great job.
I'm sure you did. And just a quick question, a quick follow-up. Is that something that can still be found and still be used by professors, again, whether it's in Europe or worldwide? Is it a tool that is available for everybody? How does that work if somebody wants to get involved or see what has been done?
Yeah, the research and innovation project is at the end right now, but they can go to beaconing.eu, okay, and register, and they will be able to try to experiment with this tool. And this is a good moment because we are trying to run some pilots with different schools in different countries. So they can explore the tool and of course give us feedback to improve them.
Nice. It's an opportunity that's being launched out there for many of the engagers who could be in the education space. I invite you as well to go ahead and explore some of the beaconing.eu webpage and see what you can learn, what you can use, experiment a bit. This whole iteration that we always like to talk about in experiments, see what works, what doesn't. It's something that we are constantly doing in education, and that I think if we start incorporating games and gamification, game-based solutions in general, it's a very, very nice way to do it. And again, here you have another tool that could be very useful for that. So thanks a lot for that, Pau. And that leads as well to the next question very well, because the other thing that we would like to know, Pau, that we would like to learn and to explore is when you have one of these problems, for example, when you faced the beaconing project, is there any sort of steps, process when you're going to find a solution? How do you approach a problem when you're going to use these game-based approaches? How do you go about it? What's the process? Is there any process, or is it a free flow? If it's a free flow, like walk us through how it usually goes. I don't know. Give us an idea of how does this actually work in everyday life?
Well, we try to adapt the process depending on the project, and also depending on the goals that we need to achieve. Okay, but we always try to use a participatory process where our customers or our end users are engaged to participate and co-create and co-design with us. Okay, so we try to put different people together, our team, end users, or our customers in the same room and try to create something together. Okay. And we try to use different tools. One of the tools that we use is the gamification model canvas. I don't know if you have heard about that. It's kind of a business model canvas to create a business, but applied to gamification. And it's a really good tool to engage them in the process of creation.
I've seen at least a couple. So which one is the one that you use specifically? The one that was created by whom?
Gamification Model Canvas by Sergio Jimenez.
Okay.
They are in Madrid, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, they are actually the organizers. They used to be the organizers of Gamification World Congress, and
exactly.
iWin, I think, is the name of the company.
Yeah, from iWin, correct. Yeah. So this is kind of a board game where you have a different squares with different goals. So our customers are really engaged because they can participate on the creation of the gamification strategy. They need to give their opinion about mechanics, about dynamics, about different game elements, about the costs, also about the revenues, so the success of the gamification strategy. So it's a good way to try to get lots of information from them. So then we make as a team in our company the process of refinement. So we put our expertise after that, and then we make a proposal to them. But the process of co-creation, the process of co-design, it's really fruitful and really interesting for us because we get a lot of information from them. So yeah, this is a process that we try to apply, and yeah, I think is the one that give us the best results.
Yeah, it sounds like a very good one. I saw it. I think I saw a presentation on that one in Gamification World Congress, probably 2015 or 2016, which was the last one by Flavio Escribano. I don't know if you Ludicator on Twitter.
Yeah. He's from Barcelona.
Yes,
and we regularly meet.
Yeah, definitely. He has a very good model on that one. He has a very good handle. I will find a link. I know that there is a link to that gamification design framework, design canvas, and I will post it in the show notes. So if you go to professorgame.com and type Pau or Pau Yanez, Yanez, you will find the links to this episode, and you will see the link for this and any other things that we discussed during the episode. Just a quick break before we continue with this episode. If you've been enjoying this podcast, I would really appreciate if you share it with your friends and family and on social media. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at RobAlvarezB and the hashtag ProfessorGame, all one word. And in Facebook, you can find the Professor Game page. Thanks in advance for your engagement. So now, Pau, we are going to move into sort of the second part of this interview. Here we are looking beyond the stories and the process, etc. The idea here is to go into direct, almost recommendations. What do you think? What's the strategies that you use? What's your favorite game? And those kinds of things, which are like a little bit more straightforward. And the first thing that we would certainly like to know is if there's any best practice of sorts, or something that you say, well, when you're thinking of game-based solutions, if you do this kinds of things, or if you use this strategy, or if you use this or that, it is always going to help improve your design or your final product. Is there such a thing for you, Pau?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most important things for us is know your audience. It's really, really, really important to know who is going to interact with your game-based solution, your gamification solution, or your video game, or whatever kind of game solution that you are creating. If you know them, you will be able to create something specific for their desires, or And the other thing is, I go again to the co-creation. If you can make your customer, your end user, participate on the creation of the solution, you will be able to be more success on the implementation of that, because they will feel more involved on the process. So they will give you better feedback after the implementation of the solution. So during the play test process, you will get more interesting, or more insights, or more deep ideas or ways to improve the experience.
That's super, super powerful. And I'm just going to circle back into the knowing your users or your audience or your players, however you want to name it. Do you use any sort of framework? Because there's people out there profiling people. Is there any quick way in which you can explain to us how do you get to know your audience? What does that mean in practice?
We normally use the user persona framework, or how to say it, in a way. It's a process to create a profile of the different target users that you are facing with your gaming strategy. So the idea of the user persona is to create a profile of each one. So, for example, if you want to create a game-based solution for teachers, you need to define the different personalities of the different teachers that you are creating the experience for. For example, you will need the typical teacher that doesn't know anything about technology, but is so motivated about teaching, a really vocational way of practicing the teaching. And different teachers that you need to face, you create different categories. For each one, you define a bio, or you can create a fake picture. So at the end, you have a different profiles, and then this is the base to create your game-based solution. So each decision that you make in the process of when creating this solution needs to fit the motivation, the personality, the frustrations of the different user persona, the bio, and whatever you have defined before that. And it needs to be the most realistic, as most realistic as possible. So at the end, you will face each goal that you have. You will be successful when designing.
Fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. And getting to know the people you're going to design for is, in my opinion, it's something basic that you always need to make sure that you're doing. And Pau, we've been talking about games for a long while, and this is one of the most difficult questions of the podcast for sure, because we would like to know, what is your favorite game?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I don't have one favorite game. I need to be honest on that.
You're going to cheat on the question. There you go. Please, name a few. Name a few.
No. I love, as you said, resource management games or city building games. Those are the one that make me create something. I love the games that allows you to create something, not just playing, but creating. So if I had to say one game, can I say two?
Yes, of course.
Okay. The one that I would say it's a city building game that is called Cities Skylines, where you are able to create cities, put different residential zones, commercial zones, and make your city grow, creating public transport and whatever. And in the other side, StarCraft 2 would be the one that the other one that I love to play, but I don't have much time to play this one because you need to be so skilled. It's a real-time strategy game, so you need to be so skilled. So as I don't have much time to play, so I always lose. So
it requires a lot of dedication, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if you are not really expert, it gets a little bit frustrating.
That makes sense. I do remember back in the day, like, I don't know, maybe like 15 years ago when I'm not sure which version of StarCraft it was, had a friend who was like all day trying to connect through wherever he could find a computer, connecting back. It's like, well, but it kind of sucks you out of the rest of your life and tries to suck you into different points. And that's what, for me personally, like put me off a little bit. I saw the game. It was very, very exciting. But that whole like eternal connection that you always needed to be there was what made it very difficult for me to actually participate, which is, I guess, what you're finding challenging as well by now.
Yeah, it's hard to learn how to play. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating at the beginning, but if you dedicate time, you can be good and enjoy it, of course.
Absolutely. And Pau, is there somebody, we were talking about in the pre-interview chat that you've been listening to a few of the interviews. Is there somebody, when you hear these interviews after we've been talking for a while, is there somebody that comes to your mind that you would like to listen to in an interview like this one in Professor Game?
Yeah, I think you should interview a guy from Barcelona. He's called Oscar Garcia Pañella.
Yes.
He is the academic director of NT, New Technologies Interactive School. They are making some degrees and masters around video games and serious games. And he's also partner of Cookiebox, a gamification consultancy firm from here, from Barcelona also. I think he could bring lots of value for you and your audience. So yeah, I think he's a good candidate.
Yes, I'm sure he is. I haven't met him. I think we've exchanged a few words probably in Twitter, which is one of the places I hang out the most. But I've heard about him many times. But I haven't met him. But it would be a nice connection to have and somebody to include definitely as a guest in the future for Professor Game. So perhaps in the end we'll be talking about if you have any direct contact with him.
I can introduce you to him. So of course, count on that.
Fantastic. And again, in that sense of people you would like to listen in an interview, there's also the resource of books. Is there a book that, if you had to recommend like one book to the engagers, to this audience who's interested in game-based solutions and gamification, what book would you recommend and why?
For me, one of the books that make more impact when I was learning about game design, it was about 6-7 years ago. is the art of game design from Jesse Shell. For me, it's the Bible of game design. Okay, it's a book that is really well written. It's not about gamification. It's not about serious games, but it's about game design. But one of the interesting things of the book is that it's written for everybody to understand what game design is, and also it comes with different cards. They are called the Book of Lenses. Okay, and there are different cards that helps you to evaluate the game you are creating. While you read the book, Jesse Shell gives you tips to create your first game. So after when you finalize the game, you can say that you are a game designer. Okay, and these different cards helps you to evaluate if your game is well done, well designed, or not. So it's kind of a really practical book with lots of theory inside. But at the end, when you end reading the book, you have your own game created. So this is
Yes.
this is what I did, and it makes you feel good because at the end you feel that you are a game designer. So I would recommend to everybody that wants to go into games, gamification, video games, or any gaming experience, The Art of Game Design from Jesse Shell.
It is a fantastic book, and if I turn around, I can see it on my bookshelf. So I would completely back that recommendation from Pau. And Pau, we've been talking about the things that you do, and some learnings that you've had, but when it comes to these game-based solutions, game design, gamification design, what would you say is your sweet spot? Some would call it your superpower.
Hard question again. I think that it's not my superpower, but my team superpower. Can I talk about my team superpower?
Yes, please.
Not mine. Okay. Is that after creating game-based solution for real life experiences, we are able to. We know how to make people move around and go to certain places that we want them to go. So we can move people around the city. So this is our superpower.
That is a superpower, and it's something that you've been doing for quite a while. So, Pau, now we are going to move in to what we call our gamified question, because there is an element of mystery and randomness to it. We are going to bring up a question of somebody that send their questions through our webpage, through email. Somehow they contacted us and sent us their questions, their doubts. And I put them in the list. I filter out those that would maybe not make sense for an interview like this one, and then I pick a random one. And I've been stalling for all of these seconds so that I was able to pick one randomly very, very quick. So the question is, it's an engineering professor. He didn't give us his or her name, so we cannot reveal it either. And the question is looks like a very simple question, but I think it's broad enough to give a few stabs on things that could be interesting. The question is, how can gamification improve my teaching? Again, this is an engineering professor. So is there any tips, any tools, any resources that you would recommend and to tell him how this would be a better thing for his teaching through gamification?
Well, for me, gamification, of course, can improve teaching. This is a scientific fact, but it's not so easy to do it. It's not just put some leaderboards and give points and badges and that's it. So I would recommend to start gamifying teaching, learning how to put the content of the subject that you are teaching in a story. Okay, and create a storytelling that engages the students. If he or she is able to create this story, they will see that students are more interested, are more focused on when he or she is explaining. So I think creating stories, creating, engaging stories. It's a first step to go into gamification. I would recommend this to him. It's a broad question, but I think
Yes.
the first advice would be this one.
Yes, and I think it's a fantastic advice because of course, it's a very broad question again, but it's a very nice, because sometimes we see all these things and you get to see things like City Nostra that was created by you, or these amazing complex solutions that are out there created by incredible experts, and some people can feel overwhelmed, and this is very easy to get there. It's easy to see this and see, how the heck am I going to arrive to something like this? So the first baby steps, especially when we have these questions about how does this even work, how do I even get started, I think it's a very nice approach what you took about, which is to say, well, you can just go for a story and see how it works, how you engage them, and then you can of course start building upon that with mechanics, understanding how your students, because this person probably has been teaching for quite a few years now, you understand what's the profile of these people, you understand how they behave in general, what they're interested in, again in a general sense, and you might be able to cater a story for their needs, for what they're looking for, and put them inside this world that you're creating for them so that they can be more engaged, and it gives a purpose and a meaning to whatever it is that you're teaching, because sometimes it's hard. This goes perhaps a bit more back into high school and middle school, etc., because you're there and you kind of don't see what's the purpose of learning all these things. If, for example, if you're going to study, I don't know, as a lawyer, you don't understand why you have a physics class, and you don't understand why there's all this math and all these things. Giving it like a purpose and wrapping it around a narrative or a story, I think it's a very nice way to get started.
Absolutely, and it's a good start, as you say. The first baby step is creating a story and creating kind of a points or system. It's not the best way, because you can have the opposite results that you are looking for.
Oh yeah, but it's something that we already do, Pau. I'm very insisting on this. We already have points. We grade people, and there's points there. We give them badges for those that make outstanding things every once in a while, and we have the leaderboards. It's in some countries it's been eliminated that you cannot publish these kinds of things, but the leaderboard is still there. I mean, when you have, for example, when you use the curve, there's a leaderboard. There's the people who get the top grades, the middle grades, and the low grades. And that's basically a leaderboard, no matter how you see it. That's something that we're already doing it. We're already doing
absolutely.
Game design in a way.
but it can create frustration.
Yes.
And when you gamify, one of the things that you want to avoid is frustration.
Yes.
Or at least if it's not controlled. If you create frustration, you need to control why, and then create a system that it's more complex. So yeah, as I said, the first thing is create a narrative, create a story, engage them, make them part of the creation of this story. That would be another good advice. And then if you have this, you have them engaged, then go for the next step, is creating a more complex system with points, with badges, with different mechanics and other stuff.
Absolutely. So Pau, is there any final quick piece of advice you want to leave us with? Then please get into the plug zone and tell us where we can find you, where we can find out more about your company, what you're doing. And then, of course, it will be out of time.
Okay, yeah, you can, of course, find me in LinkedIn. You can look for my name, Pau Yanez. And also you can go to geomotiongames.com, as it sounds, geomotiongames.com. And yeah, explore our website, discover what we are doing. And if you want to get in touch with us, we will be so happy to talk with you all.
I'm sure that there'll be some people that will take up that offer and ask you for advice. Maybe they want to work with you on a project or similar. So Pau, thank you very much for dedicating this time today to the engagers. Thank you for all those insights, all those valuable principles. However, now it's time to say that it's game over.
Thank you.
Engagers, it is fantastic to have you around. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Pau. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask our future guests? Then go to professorgame.com/question and ask your question. If it is selected, it will come up in a future episode and you will get your answer. And before you go on to your next mission, Would you like to know how to create quests for gamification in the classroom? Then you have to listen to Stephen Isaacs in the next episode. So subscribe using your favorite podcast app and listen to the next episode of Professor Game. See you there!